Hi, Rob here from Way Out West Roots Music Club. Welcome back. We've had a great run of gigs in October, or as we say, Rocktober, and we finish up the run this coming Sunday, the 29th, from 2 p.m. at Newport Bowls Club, where we'll be hosting the fantastic Simon Kinny-Lewis. I had a great chat with Simon a little whiles back, and we had a talk about all sorts of things, including his recent win at the Sydney Blues Society, where he'll be going over to Memphis in early January to represent Australia. So sit back and enjoy the interview, and we hope to see you on Sunday. Also, can you hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already done so? I'd really love to get to 100 subscribers. So rock on, my friends, and we hope to see you this Sunday.
Thanks for joining me today, and a first big congratulations on winning the Memphis Blues Challenge up in Sydney with the Sydney Blues Society. Really exciting news, and you're going to be off to Memphis early next year.
Yep, off to Memphis, and really looking forward to it. I haven't been to that neck of the woods, so very much looking forward to that with the band. Yeah,
fantastic, mate. Was music a big part of growing up in your early life? Was it a part of family life?
It was a huge part of my early development. I had music around me all the time. My dad played a lot of Bob Seger, Johnny Winter, Roy Buchanan. My mum played a lot of Stevie Winwood, Traffic. We had the Beatles going on there. My older brother, who passed away when I was 20, he had an amazing collection of, jazz, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker. He also had some great blues stuff as well. Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I was just loaded with good music around me when I was a kid. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Hard to not absorb all that,
Yes.
I started strumming guitar around 8 years old. My older brother showed me a few chords. Yeah.
Did mum and dad play as well? Or?
No, they just love music. My older brother played, and he was a good guitar player. I would be so in awe of him, just watching him around the house with the guitar, and I pretty much knew earlier on that that's what I wanted to do. But when I was a kid, you're still doing kid things, hanging out with your friends, riding bikes, going to the movies, but the love of music was always there. Yeah.
And when did you take the move to gravitate towards playing the blues?
I pretty much I was playing a lot of blues sort of in my teenage years, like a lot of Stevie Ray, a lot of the typical stuff that a lot of guitar players play when they get into this style of music. Stevie Ray Vaughan, there's not many guitar players that don't go through that kind of phase. And Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton. I love that. My favorite Eric Clapton record would be John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, the classic Beano cover. I could sing every solo from that record when I was 10, pretty much, similar to my son who's 9. When he hears a solo from something, he'll just sing it note for note, and it's like it's in the genes. But then I got into music more seriously when I had a lesson. We moved to Sydney. We grew Bathurst from the country. So when we moved to Sydney, my first real introduction to sort of jazz and combining those two was when I had a lesson with James Muller, and he lent me a Robin Ford record called "Talk to Your Daughter." That was that I had for about a year, and I'd constantly offered to give him, return it, but he would say, "Oh, it's okay, you keep it," So, and I was kind of sickly going, "Oh, cool," Um, and I learned so much from that record, and it was the first time I ever heard somebody, infusing that jazz, but with the funkiness of the blues. And for me, that was just, it felt like it was just a light bulb moment. Like I realized, hey, you can kind of do that, because I wasn't, as much as I loved and I respected jazz and bebop and all that sort of stuff, I never really got into it. I was far more, I was still sort of craving blues. But then with Robin, he added this beautiful little sparkle to it and just freshened everything up. So all that diatonic blues stuff that I'd sort of gotten down in my early years, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix and stuff, suddenly there was somebody that was doing something a little extra to that. And that was just like that's when I really dug deep and I started practicing and I started to take it seriously.
Cool. And talking of Robin Ford, who I love myself, your 2022 release King Biscuit had Robert as a producer, and he also played on the album. Can you let me know how that came about?
Yeah, that was through the pandemic. I was doing an album with my drummer and we'd arranged a bunch of blues songs, and I just thought I just recently opened for Josh Smith, Kirk Fletcher, Chris Kane, did 2 albums with Chris's band, did 3 tours with Chris's band, and I realized, like, once Josh and Kirk was sort of on board, none of these guys were touring, so everyone was at home and had more time to record. Once those guys laid their tracks down, I thought, why not ask Robin? And he just previously recorded on our Another Day in San Jose on a song I wrote called Dagger Eyes. And so I wrote out to him, not expecting a reply, or certainly not as quick as he replied. And he was in, and he was interested. And I sent him some more tracks, and it was like an absolute life-changing moment for me. It really just gave me this boost, and gave me this, I don't know, I've always been very confident with my music, but it was almost like it's like he's been my mentor for years, and I've been, I've learned so many of his solos, and I've learned so much from him that it was wild, to be honest. I actually said to him over the phone, I said, I still look in my coffee plunger and I'm like, when I get up in the morning, I'm going, is this really happening? I said that to him. And he was a lovely guy, great to work with, amazing intuition just, I love the way he produced the record. I love the way, there was a couple of moments where I was like wanting to leave some stuff in on a track, and then he said, "Oh, we need to wrangle some of that guitar back." It was like Ray Beatles track, I think, and it was that was on Smokestack Lightning, and yeah, it was like once he did that, I went, oh, I see what he's doing there, and there needs to be that hook there, and so everything just fell into place. I learned a lot, man, from that record. It was just an absolute blast. Had an absolute ball.
That's fantastic. I just recently interviewed Darren Jack, and he has a similar story. He talks about Robert Cray, how he was influenced by Robert Cray and got to play with him. So, and it's really nice to hear that musicians that have done it all, like Robin and Robert Cray, are really nice people as well as being fantastic musicians.
Most of them are, we're all just doing the same thing. And I think that's what I had to sort of realize. To be honest, the first couple of conversations, the first time he said to call him, Robin Ford, I'm like going, I was trembling, to be honest. And I think the first thing I said to him over the phone was, it's just an absolute dream just to be able to call you, And I could hear in the tone of his voice, right? Let's get out of business, man. Let's talk music. And so I kind of had to shake all that stuff off and just treat him as this as a project, as a musical, as an album, and someone that someone I'm working with to get a good album going. It was great learning experience. Yeah.
Good. You mentioned Kirk Fletcher too. Kirk played at our club a few years back too. He's another great musician, mighty fine player.
Great guy, lovely soul, beautiful guy. Yeah.
And you had some really nice words spoken by Steve, and I can never say his name properly, Lukather of Toto. He endorsed you at one stage as well, I believe.
Yeah, that was like another wow moment. During the time I was recording Street Blues, which was my debut vocal guitar album, which was more rock than blues. Like it was, I went through like a bit of a phase from blues to country to rock, and then I went back to Robin Ford, so just trying different things. And that was a absolute wow moment. Like he's one of my favorite guitar players, and I love Toto. And so that was just like, I mean, when you get these sort of, that vote of confidence from your idols, it really rubs off on you. You sort of it reconfirms you're doing something right. Because when I don't know, like when you're playing a lot, it's like when you get those kind of guys, just give you that confidence. It really helps, and everyone's been there. Like it's at some point they would have been, said the same thing from guys, and they know that, so like by giving that confidence and that love to other people, it's just it's like you're one big community. It's like we're all doing the same thing. We're all just trying to make great music, and the main thing, we're just having fun with it. So
fantastic. Yeah. Not only are you a fabulous guitarist and singer, but you're a hell of a great songwriter too, mate. Do you have a process for writing songs, or have you got someone you draw inspiration from with the songwriting?
Well, Rob, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that, because songwriting for me, it's always been there, but definitely since the pandemic, my songwriting just really exploded. And I think there was a lot of stuff that was kind of buried there that wanted to come out, but it was kind of suppressed a little from so much guitar focus, so much guitar playing. And so earlier records, there's like sort of 50-50, like I like to arrange music. I like to bring alive a great old blues song and just change it a bit, similar to like I love Robin's arrangements on many blues classics. It just refreshes them, and there's a lovely thing by doing that. And so my songwriting wasn't really, there were songs there, but lately, I mean, during the pandemic, I had a lot more time to write, because we weren't gigging, so I started to listen to my main influences of late. I probably wrote around 50 songs during that period, like the last, couple of years. And my main influence at the moment, and probably has been for the last couple of years, is Tony Joe White. I got into him really, really heavily, and other guys like Ry Cooder. Robin has written some beautiful songs. Oh Virginia, one of my favorite songs of all time. And also Joanne Shaw Taylor. I've just started to get into a bit of her. She's fantastic. But Tony Joe White, for me, he really, hit a chord with me. There's something about, it's like, a warm cup of cocoa in your hands, it's like a storyteller, and sometimes the subjects are just they're very simple, but they're real, it's something that everybody can relate to, and very descriptive, but without trying to sound too cliche. And I mean, there was a reason why Elvis Presley knocked on his door at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night and wanted to pay for poke salad. That's the story. Apparently he got up in his pajamas, and there's an interview, apparently someone told me, and it was like Elvis's bodyguards rocking up at the house, and next thing he knows, he's been flown over to Vegas to watch Elvis, sing his song. And there's an interview with him that I did watch recently where he said when that happened, the confidence he had as a songwriter just clicked. He just realized, well, if Elvis Presley's singing my songs, then I think I can write songs. And so a similar thing happened to me with King Biscuit. Was like I knew music was all going in the right direction for me, but as soon as I had Robin Ford say, I want to be involved with this, that was like an amazing vote of confidence, and it unleashed another side of me that I didn't really know I had it in me. It was just, being around positive people and creative people, it has an effect, So yeah, that helped the songwriting too, I think, because I dug deeper into that, and I love it. It's just like, in fact, I get a bigger kick out of writing a song these days than laying a solo down, on a track,
Only Joe White, you can't knock him. I mean, not only do you hear his lyrics, you can smell the delta half the time when he's singing. It just makes it so real. My favorite Tony Joe White story was in Byron Bay. The first time I went to Byron Bay, and he came on stage to play just with his drummer, and then there was this huge thunderstorm while he was playing rainy night in Georgia, and the hairs just stood up on my arms. It was just moment.
Wow. Yeah. My hair would be shooting out of my skin. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, he's just fantastic.
Yeah. Music is a great healer.
They call him the Smallpox.
Yeah. Music's a great healer in tough times. And without getting into too much detail, I know you had some health issues, but was music a crutch that you fell back on during those tough times?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. That's another thing with Tony's writing. It's like there's something that's very relaxing and very, very chilled about it, but very creative at the same time. And I think I'm about to release an album called Deep Cut, which I wrote half the songs when I was in a hospital bed. Because I was in many, many hospital beds, but 9 times. A Canterbury hospital in around 2.5 years. And in fact, I was in hospital during the recording of King Biscuit. And there was one track I actually left off, which was like, the guys in the band were like, what? You're leaving that track? It was Help the Poor, and Robin's actually playing rhythm on that. And, I just didn't have any energy left in me. I was like on painkillers all the time. I had a major operation done for my stomach. I had diverticulitis, and it was one of the worst cases they've ever seen, and eventually had to have surgery, and it's taken to be honest with you, it's taken around 6 months to sort of feel back to normal again, and I'm 100% now. It was a really, really hard time, but the songwriting was, you get bored, man, in hospital. You're laying around. And so I'd have my iPhone and my little notes section. I got really quick at writing stuff on my phone. Usually I've been pen to paper, but yeah, that was that definitely helped. Music is a healer, as we said. Yeah.
Fantastic. Back to Memphis. I know you're a great mate of Darren Jack, so you're going to sort of get into his experiences and get a few heads up on what you should and shouldn't do over there, or?
Yeah, we chat all the time, because he started this thing called Blues Power, and it's basically a show of him and I, and he does 2 songs, I do 2 songs, and he's very complimentary, great guy to hang with on the road. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's already mentioned a few places, like one just off the top of my head, Rose's Lounge, which is in Memphis, and we want to try and do a bit of playing over there before the comp. The producer from King Biscuit, the engineer from King Biscuit, Casey Wasner's in Nashville, so we might. I've yet to contact him, but I might reach out to him, and Ray Beadle offered some contacts in Nashville. He just did a show with Red Volker, and which I'm really bummed I missed that show. Actually, that would have been awesome. And yeah, so there's between, you know, friends, we've got contacts there in Nashville and New Orleans as well. So look, you know, we'll see what we can get, you know, but I've got to act now because the you know, the time ticks away, so I've got to try and lock a few things in. But our main focus is at Memphis International Blues Competition, because I can tell you right now, man, the band that I'm with for that, I particularly, you know, specifically chose that lineup. And Tony's been my drummer for, I don't know, 7-8 years, forever. He's like a brother, you know. And I wanted a harp player, and I met Sean Costello down at the local jam, and I don't go to the jam a lot, but just one moment I remember having a jam with him. He sat in at my gig for a few songs. I remember he was a great player, so I thought, look, let's get harmonica, let's get really rootsy with this stuff, let's make it blues. Because 8 years ago, I think when I went into the comp, and there was a lot more bands competing then. There was Mal and wasn't Ray. It was, I mean, there was loads of bands, but you know, my playing back then was far more rock and roll, you know. So I sort of decided, let's make it blues. And Aidan Glover on bass, a young cat who he plays with everybody. He's playing with our friend Little and at the moment. And yeah, he was just he's a young guy who I just got introduced to from George Regados down at the local jam, who pulled out at the last minute, you know, because there is a big commitment. Like, you have to take that band that you competed with over there. So you need to make sure everybody can go, you know. And so he said, just try Aidan Glover, and Aidan was great, man. He learned the songs. It's a very special band, and because he's young, there was a certain energy in the room when we rehearsed. You know, there was a freshness there, you know. And I thought, this is a good band, you know. So all the energy was there. So we're really looking forward to Memphis, you know. It's going to be great. It's going to be really cool.
I just had my I've just been in Nashville. We went to a couple of great clubs there, the Station Inn and Third and Lindsay. They're two great music clubs. And then we finished up back in New Orleans for 10 times in New Orleans. So I'd love to live there if I could. But I've got a few contacts in New Orleans too, so I'll speak to you when we see. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, New Orleans, man. I've never been.
Are you a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to recorded music? How do you see it going, and, you know, against all this streaming and stuff that the young ones are doing?
You know, one thing I notice, like it's really obvious to me, but probably not obvious to the non-musician, is that there's a lot of guys posting stuff, you know, Instagram, Facebook, where it's just short bursts, you know, some shredder blitzing it for a minute, doing something amazing for a minute, you know. And you know, that's all great, you know, but the real artists for me are guys that you can listen to a concert, and it's like the true improvisers, you know. And it's like you can listen to those guys for an hour and a half or 2 hours. You know, that's the difference. It's almost like just kind of short snacks, like a little Snicker bar, you know, where you go and see a Robert Ford concert and it's like the full course meal.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's funny. It's like, and the music industry is changing rapidly with that. I think it's not, people aren't putting out records like they used to. I mean, number one, Harry Bruce posted this thing on Gene Simmons the other night, and it was like him talking about the industry, how it's, you know, it's like everyone's downloading music for free and stuff. And my comment to that was sad but true. It's like, you know, art has been stolen in plain sight, like a cat burglar with a spotlight on. And it's like it's hard. I think it's extremely hard for your motivation as a musician if, like, I mean, number one, most musicians are like doing it because they love the music And I think that just has to be there. But at the same time, if you're struggling to feed your family and pay the rent and all that sort of stuff, that's going to have an effect, you know. And I think that's what the industry's experiencing in one degree, like in a major degree, like in a major way. It's like you know, what Spotify and all these big companies, Apple and stuff, are actually paying musicians. It's just sort of, it's peanuts, you know. So that's going to have an effect, and it's already having an effect. So you're seeing a lot more short bursts. You're seeing a lot of snacky music, I kind of call it, with kind of, you know, like Pink Floyd, man. Like when they put out a record, it was like a journey, you know.
Yeah.
It's like this epic sort of, you know, listening experience, you know.
Yeah.
So I kind of, it's changed a lot. Yeah.
We had last Sunday, we just had Rod Payne and the Full Time Lovers showcasing their new album Dirt on Velvet, and he must have sold probably 30 or 40 CDs at that gig. I think there is still, you know, with that, when we get to see a band play live and they got some product, I think the people will still buy it, you know, at that live venue, which is the best way.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Well, definitely at your club.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a great club.
Yeah.
The Way Out West is one of the greatest clubs in Melbourne. And I'm, you know, I really mean that. I remember selling a bunch of CDs there, man, last time. And I really believe that that's still so, I mean, it's so important to be able to replicate what you're doing on an album, you know. So maybe that's why a lot of artists aren't putting records out, because it's like, geez, you want me to, and I've seen it happen. You know, you can, you know, when you know, from live performances, even if the audio is not great, you know, you can see if somebody is actually really, you know, a good player, you know, or they're kind of just, you know, fudging it or editing stuff or whatever. It's like the true heart is in the live performance and live music. I mean, I try to record everything. This last album, this new album I'm putting out, Deep Cut, all recorded live in my bedroom in this little, you know, behind this little red foam backdrop here, soundproof. And I deliberately do it, man, because that's how, you know, blues is recorded. Robert Room and did that whole, you know, that iconic album. And you know, there's many times I'm recording kids running up and down the hallways. Many times I'll kind of get to the end of a take and I'm like, that's the one. And I'll hear this, Daddy, could you just let go? This arm needs I need to take this arm off. It's Lego. And again, it's just good practice. But, you know, that's how you perform live. And that's, and definitely that's, you know, I wrote this song, Sweet Old Blade, which I literally wrote 2 weeks before the blues show. It was one track I went over and over and over to sort of, I tried it a few different ways. Solo version is a little different. But man, it's great practice. And that's how music's done. All the old artists, you know, all the great singers, they didn't have even the facility to do overdubs. The Beatles, you know, on their later records, you know, could, you know, they could actually, you know, commit a certain amount of tracks, and they had to do it again. But it was a real pain if they had to overdub. Well, these days you can just do whatever you want, you know. So yeah, it's like I'm a real believer in that recording process. You know, even though a day in San Jose and another day in San Jose, they were recorded live in the studio in San Jose in California. I did do overdubs here, but that was more of a budget thing. But still, we got the core band. You know, I think that's really important. Like the interaction between the players is there. You know, and if it's not, if you are doing an album like King Biscuit that was remote, you know, eventually when you've been playing music enough, you can latch on to certain things. Or if there's a drum fill here, you know, you might mimic that or whatever, or play something that usually comes naturally. I definitely don't go for that sort of stuff, but I'm always just feeling the music, almost, you know, like you're playing live, because that's what's going to connect people the listener, and there's been a lot of albums where they're kind of a bit, the music's all great, notes, the playing, all that's great, but it's a little sterile. There's something sterile about it, and you don't get that in all those old recordings, like Stevie Ray, Robin Ford and the Blue Line. There's just this energy there, that's always what I'm striving for when I'm doing stuff. Yeah.
I love some of the old records you've got. They've taken it in, they've done it in one take, and they'll leave the tape running, and then they hear at the end of the song, you'll hear them all go, "Wow, we really nailed that!" It was fantastic. That's I love it.
Yeah, you do. Hey, oh, you hear like on some Jeff Healey stuff, like that's the one. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's the feeling, man. That's the true gold. That's the gold, Yeah.
Well, that's about all I've got today, Simon.
Blues is meant to be like that.
Yeah, it's we're really looking forward to seeing you on Sunday the 29th, 2 p.m. down at Way Out West. Safe travels.
Oh, wait.
Bring plenty of merch, and we'll see you and have a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. You're a champion. Thanks.
Awesome, Rob. Good on you, buddy.